Welcome back to another episode of the IndieFilm Insider podcast. Today we're talking with LA-based writer, director, and editor Tom Botchii. Tom is an LA-based, like I said, writer, director, and editor who's made two feature films, Relentless and Artik. Both of these were made for around $50,000 and have seen some success in the film festival circuit. This is a fantastic episode with Tom, so I hope you enjoy it. Tom, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. For anybody who doesn't really know who you are or the work that you've done, can you just give a quick rundown on kind of your place within the film world?
Oh man, I don't know what my place in the film world is. Undefinable. Yeah, as of right now, I mean, I've written and directed two feature films that have came out in North America. They've both, reached distribution. One was worldwide, one was in North America, and it just came out, so we've sold a few territories as well internationally. But I've been involved with filmmaking since I was probably about like 15. It was like the only kind of hobby I could do in this small town I grew up in that like didn't involve working at the gas station or smoking the bud. So that's like the only thing I had an interest in. So yeah, I mean, I started with music videos like a lot of people start, and I moved into documentary film, and then I worked at a company called Video Maker magazine. And from there I decided to kind of just like get more into developing my own stories and trying to figure out how to understand how a lot of the creative aspects work that aren't just like video editing or aren't just actually shooting. Like I wanted to like understand the theory behind certain stories, and um, that's kind of how I got more into directing, and doing music videos is very fun, and it opens the door to like you trying to figure out how to get technical, but also figure out story interplay and how that works. And you get to learn a lot about cutting and what matters and what doesn't. And so, yeah, that's basically how I got my start, is really just through boredom and and working in the documentary space.
Now, do you have any desire to like go back to music videos, or is that something that you've kind of not like moved on from, but like you want to pursue other endeavors?
So, like, here's my theory about music videos. Everyone wants to do music videos, but the business or the aspect of the industry that involves music videos, I think, is just like completely evaporated. So it's really something I would say you do more so for fun now, and a certain aspect of promotion for whoever you're doing the music video for, but for yourself, the promotion would come out of getting that experience. There's so many music video directors that I've met in LA that are the people you've heard of and know from like the 80s and 90s that directed your favorite band's music videos. And I mean, they're not really making a living doing that anymore. So if it's not working for them, it's really not going to open this crazy door for me. I mean, it might, you never know, but I think anybody would love to be doing music videos because they're super fun. But yeah, I probably won't enter back into that space right now.
And then out of curiosity, are you based in LA?
I am based in LA now. Yeah, I spent maybe like 5 years of my life in Northern California in Sacramento, and before that, I lived in a college town called Chico. Do you guys know Chico, California?
Yep.
Yeah.
Used to go to school there.
Yep. Dropped out. What?
Yep.
And yeah, so I was basically raised in that area around Chico, and came down to LA a little over 10 years ago, and have been working.
That's cool. Because yeah, we're from Northern California. I live in Davis.
Oh, cool.
Actually, Owen and I both lived in Davis. He lives in Monterey now, but that's how we met each other. We were next door neighbors.
Nice.
So it's kind of a small world. It's kind of funny.
Monterey's a great town. That's a great spot to be in, because no one's doing anything with film at all, and like you have the market right now.
Yeah, but like that's a blessing and a curse, right? Because like on one hand, no competition. On the other hand, I have like one person who can help me.
Right. Yeah, I remember that being like a really frustrating part about being in Northern California. Is I was like, I really want to do this thing, and it would be so cool because like you have access to everything. You could just shoot in a store by like asking the person at the store, like, "Hey, can I shoot here?" And it's like up to their discretion, and
Hmm.
they still believe in the magic of film. Like if you go to
Hmm.
like Oregon somewhere and you ask someone if you could shoot somewhere, they're like, "You got a camera?" Like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, dude." Um, in LA, it doesn't work like that. Like, no one cares what you're doing; they just want money,
Yep.
and you're like almost a nuisance. You doing a film is like, oh, like how are you doing it? Like, how it's not the same, and so for like years I kind of like cursed the idea of like doing stuff in Northern California. I was like, man, this sucks. There's no one to ever help me. No one's serious. No one does anything. And now I find myself after being in LA and doing stuff out here for over a decade, I'm like, there's nowhere better to shoot other than LA. Like I love shooting other places because that magic's still there. And that's kind of what I'm like most interested in tapping into when making a project instead of just like, oh, I got to do like my LA movie or my like I think I felt like that a lot when I was wanting to come to LA. It's like I'd love to do a film in LA. And then I did a few of those and I was like, man, it's so much easier to do it everywhere else. It really is. So,
Hmm.
yeah, it is a blessing and a curse, but as you experience like more roadblocks, I'm sure you will also come to the realization of like, shit, if this was just Monterey, I could have got 3 films done by now, but instead I'm still dealing with like this red tape that doesn't matter, that no one cares about.
Yep. Yeah, literally just walk down to the sand dunes like 5 minutes away and get some beautiful golden hour shots, and nobody cares. If I was in
Yeah,
LA, it's like, oh nope, you're under arrest.
right. Why are they shooting at me?
Right. Was that the motivation to move to LA? Was to just have more opportunities?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a small town, so it was always like big dreams were like you hear about like Hollywood and LA, and I was like, oh my God, I just want to go down to LA. And there's like I feel like I'm one of one up here, but if I'm in LA, everyone's interested in film. This would be great. Like I'll go down there, I'll
Hmm.
work all the time. I have so many friends. Everyone loves film. And what you don't realize is it's actually very competitive here. So
Hmm.
Right.
um it makes things it's also like a blessing in disguise. It makes things a lot harder and it's not exactly there's this like idea of what LA is, and that's what has been sold about LA for 100 years. And that idea is still, it's not as prevalent as it used to be because a lot of productions have obviously moved out of LA and people kind of are like seeing like behind the curtain what LA really is, so yeah, I mean that was the original goal was just being from a small town. When you think of like the big city, it is like such a distance from you at all times. Like it's so far away, like you'll never be able to do something there. You're not one of those people. So just being able to move to LA and like live for like a year, like and not end up homeless is like wow, so that was kind of the goal. And so after I did that for like a year, it was kind of just like, wow, there's even more chances and opportunities you could build on here. Things happen here very quickly, much like New York. It's a lot faster pace. So it's much different than being in like Northern California or especially a small town. Like I was from a very small town where the life moves so slow. And in LA, it's like if you are going after a project, like it's people know what projects are, and it's probably going to happen once you start putting things together, because that's how a lot of people make a living here. So, yeah, I mean, always a goal to move down to LA, kind of see the bright lights, and then you get down to Hollywood Boulevard, and you're like, God damn, turn those lights off. There's so much disgusting stuff right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of projects, can you just like quickly break down your most recent feature film in terms of like just give us like an elevator pitch, like what's it about and how long did it take you to make?
Sure. Relentless is essentially a cat and mouse revenge thriller. It's a type of action movie I've always wanted to do where, there was all these moments I loved when I would watch like horror films or thrillers or martial arts movies. I'd always be like, man, I love this like cat and mouse aspect to it, like the chase. And then I just kind of thought to myself, like, why can't that just be the movie? Like, why do we gotta do anything else? Like, can't that just be the movie? And so that was the inspiration for it. And it probably took me, we shot for about 13 days. Originally, we were trying to
Hmm.
knock the film out in 9 or 10
Oh
days,
wow.
and we were going to do 3 or 4 days rehearsal. But as soon as we flew in to the location, we were kind of like, it was a very small crew. There was like 6 of us, so it's
Mm.
kind of like we're just standing around. What are we doing? Let's just what's on day one? Okay, let's pick 3 of those and just start knocking stuff out. And then the next day, I was like, well, let's pick 6 of those scenes and just start knocking them out.
Yeah.
And so, it turned into like essentially a 14-day shoot. And I think one day was all pickups in LA, running around at night, and the rest of the film was shot in Idaho. And some of it was shot in Spokane, Washington. There's a big like alleyway fight scene, mano a mano fight scene in the film, and that takes place all in Spokane. Um, Post production probably took a lot longer than it should because it was a very small project, so I was a one-man band essentially on the post side, and I had a full-time job, and I just became a father, so it was like there's just like no time in the world for anything, and so that made it very, very challenging because to truly knock out a feature, like you need like 40 to 60 hours a week, at least,
Yeah.
to make a dent and get somewhere. And imagine if you're already dedicating 40 hours to a full-time job, and then imagine you're a new parent, and that's like an endless array of hours. Like there's just no amount of hours. Like you can't get anything done. So yeah, I mean, post probably took about a year and a half to 2 years, just because it's like certain things would get put off because I had to work or I had to, we were new parents, so we had to take care of the child, and so it was like really challenging. Like I think a great subject for you guys would be just like talking to like any type of mothers or fathers who have released a film and just like
Hmm.
figuring out how they did it, or
Mm.
like people, people in that scenario, because that's like one of the most impossible tasks. Like it's like a most impressive stupid human trick is this idea that like you were able to somehow through the like through figuring out some sort of crazy time management understand how to do these things that take so many hours, that are almost impossible to do when you have the time, much less now you have none, so yeah, I mean, it took about 2 years, I'd say, to wrap it up and start shopping it and get it out there. And then it took about 4-ish months of shopping it around to finally land somewhere and feel confident about it and sign some papers. And then after that, it was delayed to scheduling and timing and figuring out the marketing and things like that. So I would say it's, we shot, yeah, it was probably the whole process probably was 3 year long, 2.5 years is what it took. Yeah. So, but normally something like that could theoretically take you 8 months if that's what you did, and that's solely what you did, from
Right.
starting the script to finishing it and getting a deal. But
Yeah.
just not in my case, that was the original goal, but it just didn't work out that way.
Yeah, I mean it's always a lot of work. How many different roles did you do on the film? Like, so you said you edited and you directed. Did you also write? Like, what else did you do?
Yeah, so I was the writer, the editor, um, producer, director. I helped out with a lot of like sound design, Foley, things like that. I also, what else did I do? I mean, during the shoot, it was like, you're helping. I mean, I think this kind of like goes with any director, but you're helping with other things as well, especially on a smaller crew. Like you're going to
Yeah.
be helping out with audio, you're going to end up helping out with whatever it is, moving lights, things like that. But yeah, I mean, I assumed so many roles and so many roles I didn't know were even roles. For example, on the post side, when you're in deliverables, there's
Hmm.
things and paperwork items that I didn't know even line producers know what they are, and I was handling those, so yeah, it was intense. but it's like a great learning curve, you know, like you get a taste of everything. So yeah, I mean,
Was the really lean crew mostly out of budget necessity?
no. So my first feature I did in 2018 and it came out in 2019. It was called Artik, and it was a feature that had kind of like a modest budget, but I wanted to run it like it was a short film because I thought we'd move faster. And I just didn't think we needed that much since that was primarily one location that we made look like seven, you know, but a lot happened in one specific location. And so I thought, okay, well, this would be cool. We could burn through these pages and knock this story out really fast. But the problem is when I showed up, one of the producers had hired so many extra bodies and people um, that we were so slow because just managing 75 to 100 people versus managing six, it
Right.
just like you do not understand how much it slows you down and how much up the chain just
Yeah.
choices like you could make a choice but it has to go down the chain and down the chain. um that documentary that just came out about the megalopolis is a great example of that, where there's so many choices that one person makes, but well, you got to get on the walkie and you got to approve it with this department head and that department, and then you got to let this guy know, and then oh, that guy's walkie, the batteries are dead, so we got to find the person to is the head of the battery department. It's just like it's just
Yeah.
endless, like, and so this time around the goal was, well, I've worked really hard to try to get a much larger production off the ground for many years and it hasn't worked. So what I want to do is just like do something if I don't get a chance to do anything else in my life that I'm just really proud of and I like. And I want to do it my way. So doesn't matter what the budget is. I'm doing this with six people and that's it. Like I don't care what the advantages are to having a crazy amount of money or a crazy amount of bodies on set. I just want to do it this way because that's what was my original intention, and I need to do that before I die. And that was the main reason for using six people. Now the benefit was, like you said, with the smaller budget, less people to feed, less
Yeah.
people to put up, less people to interact with. Decisions get made quicker because there's only so many people that could fight you on a choice, right? There's
Mhm.
like only five other people, so yeah, it was it played in the favor of the style of production.
What were some, because I mean, obviously there are pros and cons of doing either style that you mentioned, whether the big bureaucratic method or the lean short film-esque method. Was there any point in the production where you were like, damn, I really wish we had five more people on set right now?
I think there was only like two real instances where I kind of thought, damn, I wish we had more hands on set. And it was when we were, so another role I assumed is we had a set designer that would kind of was someone who was on call essentially. When we would need her, she would come in and help lay out a set for like that we would shoot at for 2 or 3 days. And sometimes there were like bigger sets that we needed to set up. And in those cases, it was like, man, we could have just called some damn film students. Like, we've been here for 7 hours prepping. We haven't even started shooting. So, yeah, but there was only 2 days of that really, and we were able to make up that time. But I would say that's like the main thing. We shot in such a manner and with the type of lighting that it just didn't require to have like seven grips moving things around. And I would say the positives outweigh the negatives, but yes, that was a negative. It was definitely a deterrent when you're trying to set up a crazy set and you need like 15 people to set it up in 4 hours, and you have three people working that set and setting it up, and you don't have anybody who's a scenic. You have to do it yourself. If you want that wall to look cool, you got to paint it yourself. So that
Yeah.
was the biggest deterrent.
Yeah, I do kind of want to touch on cinematography for a second too, because like the way that Jake and I kind of break it up in the show is that he's mostly the writer and director kind of guy, and I do a lot of the DP and producing work. I checked out the Relentless, and the cinematography looks really good. I'm surprised that when you said we only had 6 people on set. Obviously you were the director, so you were more focused on the kind of performances and the actors. I would assume. Um, how much, like, I guess, influence or say did you contribute to the cinematography of it, and are there any things that you could, like, any tips you can give indie filmmakers who are working with such little crews to make the movies look as good as possible?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I would say is get with your DP and make those choices before you get there. You guys should be breaking down your script together. You should have mini meetings, mini phone calls. And if you live in the same area, like you guys are both in Monterey or both in Northern California, you should get together, lay out, go through the script and break it down, lay out what you want to do, and make sure that that DP, is that possible for the DP? Do they have the right lens? I can't tell you how many times like we've been shooting something like just throughout my life in 20 years in film and television is and we get somewhere to shoot something and someone's like, oh man, let's get that close up, and someone says, oh, I didn't bring that lens.
Mm.
What are you talking about? That's like what you do. So yeah, I mean, just go over all those elements before you ever even get there. The second thing is while you're there, you know, when you have less people, it's easier to see things. Like you could see a great energetic shot and where people are blocked in their placement and just think, shit, you know what we could do? Instead of getting like these 9 shots of coverage, we could get you to jump on a Segway and dolly in and
Mm.
get all of the coverage we need in one super energetic moving shot right now. You guys want to try to block that and set that up? Like there's moments that could happen. So yeah, and I mean, I think really it's just about planning ahead of time and just making sure you're on the same page with that person. One thing I talked with the DP about a lot is this idea of like lots of kinetic, chaotic action, and that we need to be doing a lot of whip pans. Um, you have to see the edit before you get there. So one of the things I really wanted to try to capture in the edit is a lot of chaos by having the camera be part of the action. A lot of times I think people tend to like leave the camera and just let people do their scenes and they're kind of covering it and they go back and edit what they have. And I don't want to do that. I want the
Mm.
camera to be part of that movement if I can. And so that was our biggest strategy. So that was something we discussed beforehand, and that when we were there, we were able to execute and also improv and try to get things that worked felt a little more kinetic when we were there. And also sometimes if we needed to scale back and just have more coverage involved, we could do that as well.
Yeah, do you think that people kind of overestimate how much people you need to have on a film set? Because I know for us, like we got some feedback for a short film, like one of our first short films we did, and the guy was like, one of the actors we worked with, he was like, yeah, you guys, you're only like 3 people on the set, but it looks like you have, I don't know, like 15 or 16. And to be the thing about filming here in Northern California is that everyone's gonna say that no matter what, because no one else is making, like, you can make a movie that looks terrible and they'll be like, oh my god, this is the best thing ever, because no one's like really making anything up here. But yeah, my question is just like, do you think that people really overestimate just how much you need to actually put into a movie to make it look good?
Absolutely. I think there's uh like some great, like you could call them tent poles that everyone should focus on. Like I think everyone needs to understand how to produce up a scene in an edit. Your scene sucks. How do you edit it in a manner where it feels like I don't understand the passage of time that's happening, where it starts to suck me in? There's so many techniques you could use, and that
Mm.
takes one person, and one person when you're there. The other thing is, you know, there's all these elements that are extremely important, but do you need the entire team? Not in most cases. Like, for example, if I want to work with a great colorist, because to me, color in a film is the most important thing, one of the most important things, and your project's value going up. And I don't necessarily know if I need the color assistant. I don't necessarily know if I need DIT. I don't necessarily know if I need the assistant editor. I do need the colorist, and I do need to understand from the editor's standpoint, like what the hell am I doing and what do I need to deliver to them? So there's, I think, so many times where people are like taught this is how you should do it, but like you got to go look at who's teaching those lessons. Like just read Robert Rodriguez's book, you know? Read Rebel Without a Crew, read his second book, which I find is actually even better. And just like try to understand, well, how did he do it? So he was doing a big film for HBO, and he was told he needed like 200 people, and then he just mounted a car by himself and got a camera, strapped himself in, had a grip strap him in, and that's how he got the shots he wanted. So that took two people. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So um, I always hear these stories about Christopher Nolan shooting films where he's just out in the field somewhere and there's all these trailers and whatever, and he's out in the field with like two actors and like and like his grip or his DP, and they're reviewing some footage, and then they shoot in this small circle away from the film. And it's just so funny to me because it's like, well, he's basically shooting with six people on set. That's hilarious. It's like the greatest filmmaker, greatest films, biggest scale. It doesn't matter. So absolutely, there's far too many people. I think everyone's been taught, like, fed a lot of lies about what you need, and truly, you should just trust your own experience in terms of what you understand you need. Like if you can figure out a way to do something with three people, just do three people. Now, sometimes adding that fourth person will help you alleviate some pain, alleviate the pain. But I promise you, having 200 people will not alleviate the pain. Absolutely not. Like, do you know how hard it is to teach a dog a trick? Just any dog, just teaching it to sit or stay. Now imagine dealing with like a toddler or whatever it is. Now imagine an adult who has an ego, right? Now times it by 200. You will not win that battle, no matter how hard you try. So, yeah, I mean, it's much easier to work with like a core group of people who like are on your page, and it's much easier to trust them getting something done. It's much easier to assign them something, and it's much easier to plan around less people, I think, especially for time management, which is the whole point of doing a movie. That's how you get your feature done, is literally just by killing your schedule. You got to attack the schedule. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely think so.
Wait, real quick, if you're enjoying this episode with Tom, be sure to scroll down a little bit and just hit like and subscribe. It really helps us out and let Jake and I know that we're kind of on the right track with these episodes.
Yeah. Did you learn all this just through your personal experience, or did you? I mean, I think you mentioned some books and stuff. Did you read books? Did you listen to our amazing Indie Film Insider podcast where you
I
learned
did,
how to
actually.
make films, or what was your experience like just learning all this stuff?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, reading books and like seeing everything from growing up in a small town, seeing everything from like this worldview that was so far away, and like, well, that's how you need to do stuff. But then I would try to do something on my own, and I'd figure out stuff that kind of looked like that. And I was like, wait a minute, but it's just one of me. And so then I started trying to like add other elements, and based on experience, like what I realized is like certain things, maybe they do require 19 people, but there is a way to do them with two. And so, yeah, just a lot of it like experience. When I used to do documentaries, and when I used to work in television, I worked for a news station for a long time. And, we used to go shoot I used to have to write something, then I would go shoot it, and then I would have to edit it and deliver it in about 45 minutes. So I'd have
Yeah.
45 minutes. So when you're dealing with that constant, like, you got to get this thing out right now, you kind of realize, well, hey, I could record them through the H4n. I could get that DSLR. I could shoot them. I can quickly write something that only takes 6 shots of coverage to knock out. Then I could bring it back. I could color grade it because it's a simple edit. And then I could figure out how to get that deliverable uploaded in time within my 45-minute time frame. So, um, it's like the experience kind of taught me and showed me, well, hey, I did all that with one person. So now if we have a bigger camera, how many, and a bigger lens, how many people will that take to operate? And can we move at the speed I'm at now? I mean, probably not, but maybe. but it definitely won't take me like, to get one shot, uh, 9, 10 hours. It shouldn't, so I'd say experience more than anything.
That's always the best way to learn too. You could read as many books as you want. You could watch as many movies as you want. The best way to learn anything is just to do it. I have I have Save the Cat. That's like the only really filmmaking screenwriting book I have. And I mean, I think I learned the most just by. I mean, I think a few years ago, Owen and I were just like, yeah, let's just. I mean, we've been making movies. Our backstory is like we grew up, in the same. We were neighbors, and then we were just kind of shooting some skits here and there, and then kind of stopped for I don't know maybe a good while, a couple years, and then I think 2023 we just like let's very recently, like only a few years ago, and we are like screw it, let's just start making like serious films, not all dramas or anything, but just taking it seriously, making films that are actually short films and not just stupid like YouTube skits. And I mean, I think we learned more than I've ever learned on videography, filmmaking, editing just by doing that than anything else.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's just experience is king.
Yeah, I think experience is always going to be king, and also just this idea of like, one thing I did as an editor that I'm just now remembering is I would always try to figure out how like certain cuts were done in music videos, and I'd be like, how did they do that? Or like editing a trailer together, like why is their trailer has so much life and my trailer's dumb? Why is my trailer so
Right.
dumb? And I would go through frame by frame, and I would literally click and look at the frames and how they were cut and find frames that were cut, and I'd analyze like, okay, in America we read left to right, and this cut really works for me because my eyes do this, so it's
Mm.
switching. The movement goes from their frame right to their frame left, which we see as left to right. Oh my god, I think I just figured something out. If I do this, I'm not thinking about the cut, so they've missed so many frames when I do this, and I click from forward and back and I try to figure out the frames. Like I'm realizing these like cinemagic techniques, and that was something that really helped me. And I think if there's definitely something you're trying to figure out, like why does this fight scene in the raid look so cool? What did they do? Why is this Jackie Chan fight scene feel like he's murdering these guys, like when he hits them, but he's not even touching them? Well,
Right.
there's a lot of techniques you could find out when you start breaking things down frame by frame and just watching it. Watch something 100 times. Watch a shot 100 times and figure out. Like I would get really obsessive about it, and that was one thing that helped me. I don't know if you need to watch it 100 times, but I would say that's what helped me. So
Yeah. What do you think the dead giveaway of an indie film is? Because I've heard this talked about a lot, where it's like, make sure you're like sometimes bad lighting, sometimes bad acting, sometimes just like a lack of set design, like someone's in a room and they just have a white wall behind them. Like in your opinion, what is something that a filmmaker can do right now that makes their movie just look that much better?
color grading, like
Mm.
what a true colorist does. Like
Mm.
learn that world, understand it, even if you can't do it. Like try to just understand, well, when I watch this, I think I'm watching something that costs millions of dollars versus when I watch that, that does not look that way at all. Why? Like try to understand why, and try to understand what levels you got to mess with in post to adjust things. How do you bring out
Mm.
the skin tone? Understanding how you build a mask over someone's face, and how you know blur out the background and make it darker. Like what makes it look more filmic? What are those things? Try to figure those out and play around with that. I think that's like a dead giveaway. And then I think, yeah, maybe a little bit of set design, like you're saying. Sometimes set design is like you'll see in like an indie film where there's just, yeah, someone standing in front of a wall or whatever it is, and it's not a element of set design that plays into the story. Like sometimes
Mhm.
you want bad set design because the character is supposed to be someone who's lonely, so they're
Right.
not supposed to look like they have a bunch of stuff or whatever it is. But when it's the case, when the opposite is true, it can really hamper like a lot of visuals. So I would say those two things. Maybe another thing is when you watch an effect in a film, someone's trying to pull off someone get hit by a car, and it's just completely like the car hit is cut out of the film. Like, damn, but you're building to the car hit. So like
Mhm.
that's another element that I see. Like I really believe in, it doesn't matter how much money you have, but if you're gonna do something, like put that shit on screen. Like, are
Mhm.
you gonna try to is someone going to stab someone? Okay, I want to see it. Like, show me you could pull it off. And if you can't, that's fine, but maybe that shouldn't be the thing that you're building to and solely focused on getting across in that film or in that scene. So I would say those elements are probably the most important, but I always lean towards color grade. Like color, like people just do not work with colorists. They think like they're, well, colorists are expensive, so, and I don't know how to do that. So we'll just like crush the blacks a bit. Like that should be cool, right? And it's like, no, watch any other film. Is that what they did? You know,
Mhm.
like I absolutely think people should put way more time into that. Like as much time as you can.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Yeah. In terms of color grading, do you do much of it yourself or do you kind of often hire out to colorists?
So I love color grading myself. I do a lot of it myself, but anytime it comes to a feature film, I always like trying to just save some of that budget. It doesn't matter if it's low or high. That's going to go to a colorist and properly handle that. And then, you're usually sitting there with them and you're having, in-person sessions. So your influence will be felt for sure, Um, but yeah, I mean, I love what colorists do, and some colorists are just so advanced technically and so like talented in seeing something in your film that you didn't see, or a way to make a scene pop that you didn't even understand could be a thing that makes a scene pop. So
Mhm.
like, I love working with colorists. I have been trying to become better at coloring everything myself for like 15 years, and I'm still using colorist. So, like, there is a way to get better, and that whole like the barrier to entry isn't as high anymore by any means because anybody could get resolve and start playing around and figure it out yourself. But I've done that, and still I use colorists because there's something to that eye a great colorist will have that I have somewhat, but I haven't mastered it by any means. And I want to. I want to get better. But yeah, um, that's something I just think everyone should be trying to learn and just understand as a theory in and of
Yeah.
itself.
Yeah, for sure. I always ask this whenever someone mentions they edit or color grade themselves. I think you already gave it away, but what program do you use?
Well, so I mean, for color grading, I've used everything. I've used After Effects,
Mm.
I've used DaVinci, um, I've used Premiere. Back in the day, I used Sony Vegas. I'm a little
Oh yeah.
dating myself now. Sony
Hmm.
Vegas. There's this program I used to use. What was it called? Magic Maker Pro. I mean, I've used so many programs. Like, I started editing. This is how old I am. I started editing on a Casablanca. Have you guys ever heard of those? Nope.
Mm-mm.
Nope.
That's because it was around in the 30s. No, it wasn't. But it was, it was like, 80s to early 90s, right? But at the community college I went to, that is the systems they had that were the old discarded tech that no one was
Hmm.
using anymore. And that's what I learned to edit on, actually. And, and yeah, so I've color grading, I've tried on multiple different programs, Final Cut, I mean, you name it. Uh, It's interesting because with all the plugins out there and presets, it's starting to become less about what you use and more just how did you get the look,
Hmm.
Because now it's like kind of possible to do things that just look great in just Premiere alone or just Avid alone. Um, but that said, DaVinci is just like the most powerful program I think for color grading there is, and yeah, I'm still trying to get better at it. But editing wise, I tend to lean towards Adobe Premiere.
Hmm.
When I used to work at Video Maker, I used to teach courses where people would come in. They'd like fly in from all over, and I would teach them. We would go shoot something, and we'd do like a workshop where we'd go over how editing works. And so I had to get certified in Premiere, and it's always kind of stuck with me. But um, I've edited on like every program there is. And I definitely think Premiere is the most user friendly, Premiere or Vegas, but I don't think Sony Vegas will ever have the life that a Premiere or an Avid will have.
Never again.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that doing the post you had like a full-time job. Is that still like what you do? Or like what do you do? Do you is your full-time thing working in film, or do you have something else that helps supplement it?
Yeah, right now I solely work on films.
Nice.
I by trade am a video editor, so I work on mini movie trailers. I work on sizzle reels. I edit TV shows. I've done every type of all type of whatever YouTube content you could think of. I used to work in television a lot. I spent years working on like the Women's World Cup. I did what else did I do? I've done a lot of that type of stuff. We're just getting hired out on a show or you know a season on like sports shows. I used to do a lot of. I used to do a lot of tennis. I used to do a lot of pro wrestling. I used to do everything under the sun. Um, there was that show. What was it called? Son of Zorn. I worked on that show for a while. I don't know if you guys heard of that show. It was on Fox for a while. So yeah, I mean, uh, by trade, I'm a video editor, and then as this film was getting ready to come out, I was able to kind of just ride the wave on the filmmaking side, and I'm still riding that wave, and accepting freelance work whenever I can for other things as they come in. But yeah.
Nice. And then for you have two feature films that you've done right now. What is in line for the future?
Uh, Currently, I'm setting up a couple other features and hoping to shoot this year, at least one of them.
Nice.
Yeah, but hey, the world's your oyster, so I want to say two of them. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you kind of shooting for the ones you have upcoming? Do you want to like I guess one up your previous ones in terms of like maybe ambition or budget or anything like that, or are you kind of like, okay, let's do one more film in this current zone that I'm at and then I'll try to move up?
I think it's more so I want to one up in terms of quality of the storytelling and of um, I think when you write and direct your own stuff, especially if you edit it as well, there's this problem you run into, and that's trying to get as much that's on the page onto the screen.
Mm.
That's the biggest thing I want to improve. I think I got really good on that second feature with getting what I wrote to be on the screen, but there was still like a ton of stuff that had to be cut out, and that like I wrote this grandiose scene that took place. It's like this fight scene that takes place with a bunch of mirrors around, and it was supposed to be like me paying homage to Bruce Lee and Enter the Dragon. And then like as soon as we got to the location, I was like, oh yeah, we can't do that scene. Yeah, fuck that. We gotta cut the whole 10 minutes, huh? So like I think the idea is just to, from a story standpoint, get as much that I'm writing that's executable, that actually gets captured. And that's one of my biggest goals right now. And then yeah, I'm always trying to like take it to the next level as much as I can on in every capacity. uh I'm not so concerned about like budget ranges. I'm more so concerned with, if I write something bigger or tougher to pull off, can I pull it off? And there's
Mm.
certain things that I'm trying to write that's bigger, that's out of my comfort zone, that I want to see if I can pull off. And like I can't let like failure be the main deterrent. Like I'm just like, fuck it. If I fail, damn, it was a good run.
Right.
Yeah. Is there anything specific, I guess, you're trying to do? I mean, obviously you don't have to go into like details, but like, is there anything that you're writing for these that you haven't done before and you're like planning specifically for this thing, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think one of the things I've kind of discovered about myself, I heard this term recently, and it's very true. The term is the riches are in the niches,
Mm.
and I feel like I've got a lot of like niche things that I'm very interested in that like I don't know if other people are interested in, but there seems like a small sector of society that's really into. And so like I've just been working to push that envelope more. Like, well, what else am I only interested in that I know the rest of the world's not interested in, and that's not my problem. I don't want to do something that serves the world. I'm trying to just
Mhm.
do something that I'm very interested in that like I have to get out of myself.
Hmm.
And hopefully that like niche market will be interested in that as well. Like I'm just that's like the big goal is trying to push that hammer that more. It's like I used to shy away from like something that was incredibly unique because I thought, well, that's not going to make money, and like who gives a shit? Like uh, nobody has any money right now. Like it's America. So like I'm just kind of like uh, doing the things that I find the most unique for sure.
Awesome.
Going back to Relentless, what was the, if you're comfortable sharing this, what was the budget on that?
So we were essentially under, um, like, under, I would say 50 grand
Oh,
for Relentless. And um, my goal with that film was basically to do something that had a really low overhead, but that produced like a really high result and offered
Mhm.
opportunities in every capacity. And I really wanted to show. This is kind of like a little bit of the backstory, but I had recently became a father, and I was afraid that once you become a dad, your life's over. So I was like, shit. If I do a movie, I got to do it right now, and I
Mhm.
got to do everything I've ever wanted to do in a movie. Like,
Yeah.
and my first film was a horror film, but the truth is I love action films. Like it's in my blood. Like it's what I grew up on. It's like that's I was raised by the television, by TBS playing Bloodsport and all these other movies, Mad Max, like The Road Warrior. And so that's what I always wanted to do in life. And so when it came time to do a movie that I thought this might be my last, I was like, it's got to be like some sort of high octane action film, the type that I'd always wanted to make. And so um, with Relentless, the idea was it didn't matter the budget. I was still going to go after like as many crazy ass locations as possible. It did, you know, and as many crazy setups as possible that fit the story. And so I think a lot of times what people think is we have low budget, so it has to be one location. Nah,
mhm.
fuck that. That's a dumb way of thinking. It's like smart in a sense if you're bringing in a big name talent, but what is the story you want to tell? And it's like, what if the story has 30 locations? Can you figure it out with a low budget? Because there's probably a way to do it, you know? It's just, I feel like a lot of times the idea is how do we limit ourselves to expand most upon what we got? And I think, how do you, to me, I think it's the other way around. Like, how do you expand your story as much as possible and still pull it off no matter the money? That's part of this, that's part of the magic is like, doesn't matter what the money is. I really wanted to shoot a movie where two dudes fought in a car wash. How am I going to do that? I don't know. But the money, when if I threw more money at it, wouldn't have helped. It's about producing it right. It's
Mm.
about capitalizing on opportunity. It's about understanding how to work with the lenses. And we did break one. You know, it's about all these things that like theoretically are like um, these kind of like problems you have to problem solve that are completely they're improv, they're just dropped on you and you got to figure it out. You got to be on your toes. And so yeah, I mean the goal was just to get low budget but ginormous result from the idea of like I'm not going to limit myself because this budget's low that we have to limit it to two locations. No, I'm going to do these crazy things I wanted to try to pull off and we're just going to keep working at it until they get pulled off, you know. Um, so statistically, right, if I'm calling you to book your car wash for a fight scene, there's only like, I mean, there's like, let's say there's 250 up there where we shot. I mean, one of these fuckers has got to say maybe.
Yeah.
So that was the goal. Is like, well, I'm just going to put in the time on the producing side and figure out how to
Right.
get this done. Versus like, how do I book that 16-man stunt team that They did the John Wick movie. Like I'm not gonna do that. Like it just doesn't apply to this project. So yeah.
Was location the biggest like category of spending?
Um yes, locations was the biggest category of spending, and probably maybe visual effects after that.
Oh,
Those are probably the two, because one of the things you have to worry about, or at least for myself, is there's so much VFX that you don't notice, like cleanup shots. There's so many, like you're working with six people, so there's like a goddamn cable that's up there for some odd reason. There's shit just hanging around everywhere, like, and just
Right.
going in to clean up all that stuff was like, man, that stuff adds up. Once you're doing like, you're cleaning up like 70 shots or something. Like that's a lot of work. So that type of stuff. And also we had some visual effects to add to certain stunts and fight scene elements. So yeah, that was those two elements, the locations and the VFX, were the most expensive for sure.
if somebody was interested in making an action movie on a low budget, do you have any, I guess, advice for how to pull off a low budget fight scene?
Yeah, I think one of the best aspects you can you can do is study editing, because you'll realize that a lot of times you don't need to shoot the entire action. You can shoot everything in segments or cuts.
Hmm.
And by that I mean you could get a shot of the person doing that John Wayne punch over the shoulder, and then you could just very quickly come around and get all your pickups from the other side. And you don't necessarily need to like have people um, fully choreograph everything months and months and months in advance. It depends on what you're doing. Like sometimes choreography will really help you and you can save a lot of time before you get there. And other times you could also do stuff you're there, but just base stuff that's kind of like grows in the edit. You want to plant a seed that you could build upon. And I think a lot of times with choreography where people get just really discouraged is they think like, shoot, like we gotta plan out this like 3 minute long full fight scene and try to understand how to like make it action packed and cover it all from one angle. And that's really hard. It's gonna take a lot of time. Okay, great. Can you figure out a really impactful way to pull off a punch? Like if there's a punch in your movie, like does it look fucking brutal? Like try figuring out that stuff. Like sometimes that stuff and just getting four of those elements in, like, is way more impactful than like this fight scene from, I think of They Live, right? In the film They Live, there's that really long fight scene between Roddy Piper and Keith David, and it's probably like 9 minutes long or something. I mean, it's actually probably I think about 4 minutes long, but it feels like it's 9 or 10 minutes long. Um, and the truth is, like, if you're trying to pull off your own fight scene, there's just multiple ways to go about it. I think breaking it down, because it's going to feel like a mountain, just breaking it down and trying to capture, like, how do we get impactful punches? How do we move the camera so I don't have to kick you in the face, but it feels like you got kicked in the face? How do we figure that out? That's number one. And step number two is kind of like common sense, like, you know, uh, do you guys know how to fall?
Yeah.
Like is there a crash pad you could put behind you and just not shoot that part, or VFX it out later, where someone could take a big fall and it looks really cool? And is someone getting dragged on their knees somewhere by their hair? Okay, well, great. Do they have knee pads? Like there's a lot of just simple things you could get from like um just breaking things down in that manner of like, how do I keep them safe, and how do I also break down the heavy aspect elements of the action part of it, like those little cuts. Like how do I get inserts of like punches? How do I figure that out and build upon that? Those are the two things I would suggest probably.
Yeah, I mean, doing a feature film, especially an action feature film for under 50k, is like pretty crazy, because I think one of their first guests, or third or fourth guests we had on the show, mentioned that he was like, yeah, I've worked on micro budget features, like around like 100k, 200k. I'm like, that's a micro budget, like
Yeah, I
what?
know.
That's crazy to me.
Like, dog, you made
And
4 movies. What?
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I just hearing that is really cool. I mean, and like you said, like they only had 6 people on the set, so I think you should be very proud of that, because I think that that's very inspiring to a lot of. I mean, I remember watching, I forget everything right now because I don't remember. Of course I do, but I remember watching a movie and my dad was like, "Oh yeah, they only shot that for like X amount of money," and I was like, "It's like, hey, that's like not that. I can do that, you know." And so I think stories like yours and seeing films like that are just super inspiring. Especially like the choreography in the film feels really real. I was very impressed with that because I was like, okay, action film, indie action film, they might cheap out on some of the hits or whatever, but no, you guys go like fucking crazy, and there's a lot of blood too. So I mean, you guys did a great job.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, I'm really inspired by I spent a few like a past lifetime being involved in the pro wrestling game, and
Mm-hmm.
I love that world, and so that's it's like the same type of kind of like determination and the same like secretive techniques I like to use when it comes to filmmaking and when it comes to fight scenes. And those are the type of people I like to work with that are like really down to get grimy and dirty and like, you know, aren't afraid to get a little scratched up. And yeah, I mean, I think that's the only way to pull it off with the low budget, action film is you just got to have people who do they have any interest in stunt work? Because if they don't, it's going to get a little harder. At least for the film we did, like this film specifically has like a ton of stunts, but
Right.
sometimes you don't need to necessarily go that route. But in this film, I worked with 2 actors who are like very interested in stunt work. So they're like, well, we want to understand what it's like to get like strapped up and jump off this car and fall on the concrete. Like we want to know what that feels like, and that's we want to do a car hit. Like one of my lead actors kept telling me like, man, can we figure out how to do a car hit? I'm like, it kind of doesn't make sense to the story.
Right.
Your character's already gone through a lot of pain. If he gets hit by a car too, like I don't know if he'll live for the rest of the movie. But yeah, it was like that was like an aspect that kept coming up. Is this idea of like um, trying to figure out other opportunities for stunts, and that's what you want to work with when it comes time to do like an action film in general. It's just people who have an interest in stunt photography, stunts overall, and understanding that they're doing it and they want to get that feel for it.
Yeah. That's a good place to be as a filmmaker. An actor coming up to you and being like, "Can you please hit me with a car? Like,
Please
just
hit
whatever
me.
you do,
Just
just
please
please."
hit me. Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
so
that's sick.
yeah, and thank you for what you're saying. I appreciate that. But yeah, I
Yeah, of
mean,
course.
and that goes back to casting. Honestly, it's like, who are you casting? If you're casting someone who's like a rough brute, you want to cast someone who it's like they're very interested in that and they fit that. So it's like I wanted to cast someone who is very scrappy and chaotic, and so I turned to this actor who has a great background in stunt work. And he's like, yeah, I want to do stuff that's very physical. That's the type of roles I'm going after. I was like, oh, great. This whole character is nothing but physical. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Tom, on that note, if anybody wants to find you or any of the projects that you've made or the ones that you're working on in the future, where can they do that?
I'm primarily on social media, Instagram, Tom Botchii, and Twitter, Botchii, and that's pretty much it. Blue Sky and everything else, Tom Botchii. So you could find me there. But Instagram is where I'm most active. I kind of try to stay off social media.
Perfect. Yeah,
Nice.
it's smart. And yeah, we'll link those down in the description below. If anybody wants to check me out, I'm at OneCarterDP on Instagram. Jake, where can they find you?
You can find me at Jake Rossbell. And real quick, Tom, if people want to watch Relentless, I know it's not released yet, but where can they expect to see that in the future?
It actually is released. It came out in
Oh, sorry.
January. Yeah, no worries. It came out in January, on January 9th. It is available on iTunes, Vudu, Amazon. Anywhere where you go rent or buy films, you can find Relentless. And yeah, give it a watch, give it a review, and check it out.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, all that stuff will be in the description below. If you want to check out our previous episode that we did with Hadley Hillel, that has been on screen for the past, 5-10 seconds or so. And thank you so much for tuning into this episode of IndieFilm Insider. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.